Hi Newfield artists. So today we are going to make our own watercolor prints, and you could use watercolor paint if you wanted to, but I'm going to show you a way that you can do it using markers, just washable regular markers, and some water. And I have my water here in a spray bottle, which does make it easier for this. And if you don't have one of those, you can just use water. I have some water here in a cup and a brush, or you could just use your fingers to brush it on. So I also have here a plastic Ziploc bag, so you'll need something like this. I have a little plastic bag, and I have a piece of white paper. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my plastic bag here. I also have a few markers, and I chose some colors that I think will look good together. These happen to be all cool colors, so I'm going to just kind of scribble on the color onto my plastic bag. So you could just kind of experiment and have fun with it. Okay, so now that I have that done, I am going to, I'm going to move my paper out of the way actually, so I can get a few minutes. I'm going to take my water bottle, my spray bottle here, and I'm just going to spray. And I have cardboard down here just to kind of protect my table. It's going to start to get a tiny bit messy, but I don't want to spray a ton of water, but just enough so that I can start to see some of the color from the marker, the ink from the markers becoming, they're looking like it's a watercolor paint. I see some droplets of water mixing in with the ink. And that's what you're looking for. So now I'm going to take my paper, and I want to flip this bag over with my ink on it, and I'm going to kind of make a print here. So carefully going to flip it over, and this is really an experiment, so kind of trial and error. Every time you do this, I'm going to do it a few times a few different ways, and this might have been a little too much water, but we're going to just see what happens. So I did have some kind of spill out, but I'm going to show you what this looks like. I had a good amount of water over there, so I can just kind of spread that water out, kind of pressing in certain areas, and you can see right through that plastic, so you kind of know sort of what you're going to get. I like that I see some of these spots down here in the green. Some of this blue is running up here, mixing with the green a little bit. I like that some of the colors have mixed a little bit, and I like that some of them stay separate. So once you feel like you're ready to pull it up and take a look at what you have, I think I'm ready. I'm going to take the bag away, and that is pretty neat. I really like how that's looking. Sort of. The bag is clean, so it's ready for me to use it again. Even if I wanted to, on this side over here, maybe use different colors, I can do that because it's all set, ready to go. Okay, I'm going to stick with those same colors, and I'm going to go for it again. So this time, instead of using my spray bottle, just to show you what you could do if you don't have a spray bottle, you can just get a brush, dip it in some water. You can of course just use your fingers. And I'm just going to get this side wet over here. So not a ton of water, but just enough so that you can kind of see that your paper is a little bit damp, a little bit shiny. And let's see how this turns out. So I did not spray any water, but my paper is a little bit wet, a little bit damp. Flipping that guy over there. And it really gave me a print similar to the way I colored it in on the paper. So I really like this all this cool texture in there with those little kind of bubbles and dots. So you get a different feel for what it looks like when you spray the water right on the bag versus when you get just a damp piece of paper going right on with the ink on your bag. So I'm just going to speed it up a little and do that a couple more times just to fill in a little bit more of this white space. So something else that you could work with is actually salt. And I just have some regular salt here. I put it in a little dish so that I can kind of use it to sprinkle. I finished one layer here, and I do like it, but I am going to go over it with a little bit more. And I'm taking this purple here, and I just want to kind of work in something maybe over here a little bit. So I'm re-wetting that surface, adding a little bit more, and now that I have it wet right here, I can take a little bit of that salt and I can just sprinkle it around where I have the wet parts. And once it dries, you'll see an interesting effect. So kind of the salt absorbs the ink and the water, and it gives you a little bit more texture. So you can kind of play around with that. And I think I will speed this up as I apply a little bit more and add salt. So another way that you can do this is you can take a permanent marker, I have a Sharpie here, and you can do a little bit of a drawing before you add on your watercolor print. So I'm going to draw a few balloons here, and then I'm going to work in the color. You can also try to do a pattern when you go to put your colors on the plastic bag, and I'm just going to try to work in a little bit of a rainbow pattern. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out with my rainbow pattern over top of my balloon drawing. And if you notice that there's certain parts that you want to add more to, you can just go back and put one certain color. So maybe I'll add a little bit more orange. So just lay down a little bit of orange on your bag, and then you can either use a brush or a spray with water and just kind of reactivate it with the water and just lay it right down on the top and press it down. So that's some extra orange in there. So you can do that if there's certain areas that you want to add a little more color to. But I happen to like the texture of kind of the dots and the droplets of water around the edges a little bit there. So I'm to experiment without using any water. You can kind of just get a nice little, maybe a spiral or some kind of design with your marker on your plastic bag. So I have a little bit of a spiral there. And I'm just going to make a print, maybe against this part here, to add a little more interest. So I'm just going to press down and pull the bag away. So without using any water, I am getting a little bit of a different effect here. So I'm going to do another one there. So there are a lot of different ways that you can go about creating your watercolor prints, and this was one where I focused on using less water and layering, and I was able to see some of my spirals and wavy lines come through there. So that's one way you can do it. I also showed you a way that you can add some salt into the mix. While it's still wet, you can sprinkle some salt on there, and I gave this a little bit of time to dry, and here's a good part of it where it really shows up and it kind of pushes the ink and the water away so that it shows kind of some highlights. Almost looks like a galaxy kind of feel to it, and we got some tie-dye looking things happening in the back too. So that is another way to add some texture. And the third way was you would first draw something with a permanent marker. So I used a black Sharpie to draw some balloons, and then I used a color pattern in rainbow order, and then I worked in a good amount of water, but not too much. So that's the tricky part, is finding a balance of how much water you need to put down. And you can do that with your spray bottle if you have one. And you can also use a wet paintbrush just with water. So those are 3 ways to create your watercolor prints, and I hope you had fun with it. Be sure to take pictures, post them on the stream so we can see your artwork. And if you do want to do balloons, that would be a nice idea if you know someone who's having a birthday coming up. Have fun. See you later.